This year, hitting the baseball has been a problem. They really only have like three guys you can really count on. It's like Goodman, McMahon, and Beck. I feel like the only guys you can really look at and be like, okay, some offense is coming. How disappointed has that been for you covering this team where you're like, they have guys like I'm a totally a guy. I think we're totally a guys. He's struggled. Like it hasn't been a great offensive bunch this year.
No, no, and it's been such a letdown, Justin. I came into this year expecting and also hoping there was definitely a fair amount of hope in my mind, but expecting that this Rockies team was going to take a step forward from last year. Now, does that mean they were going to be a 500 team? Absolutely not. But I figured that they would develop into a position where you've got guys like Michael Toglia, who's theoretically in his prime. Brenton Doyle, same thing. Ryan McMahon, flirting with his prime as well. These are guys that have shown that they can be elite caliber bats when they are swinging it well, and they have all just gone absolutely silent. Ryan McMahon was the worst hitter in baseball all the way up until about 2 weeks ago. Michael Toglia, same thing. Brenton Doyle even had some moments where he's had a couple good stretches, some good series, but overall he has been below average. And Hunter Goodman is really the only consistent hitter in this Rockies organization that from the opening series all the way till now, he's been pretty much a consistently solid bat. I think he's my front runner for possible Rockies All-Star at this point, if you had to choose one, just because he's the only guy hitting the baseball. The bats have been atrocious for the Colorado Rockies, and that's where I think I start to feel a little bit um, bleak in my expectations of the future, is because it's like, where do you go from here, right? The bats were usually the only thing you could hang your hat on, and now we don't even have that. So where do you go if you're the Colorado Rockies as an organization in the future? Uh, it's too much to say that you're a draft and development team anymore. I would argue you don't have the money to sign any big free agents in the offseason. It's a bleak spot we find ourselves in here in Colorado.
Yeah, second fewest runs scored in baseball. That's just not what you expect. Coors Field, like you think back to all these big boppers and the homers, and it should be theoretically easier to hit homers there. But yeah, just like a team wide funk. But also from like a roster construction standpoint, I'm looking around. There are a lot of veteran stopgap 1 year Kyle Farmer, Mickey Moniak type guys. Like, do you think they could just draft and develop their way out of this though? I mean, I don't. Could they go out and spend more money on Chris Bryant type contracts? I don't think so.
That's the conundrum, right? Like there's the Rockies have cut payroll, and I would imagine they're going to be cutting payroll next year for sure. They're definitely with the loss when we lost our TV deal. I think it was 2 years ago, and MLB pretty much purchased the rights to our television broadcast. That alone put us kind of in the hole financially, and now everything's just snowballing. So the Rockies financially are not in a good position, and on top of that, this is an organization that has prided themselves in being a draft and develop or a franchise, a draft and develop organization. And yet, year over year, the Rockies have failed at being a draft and develop organization. They have been on the bottom end of teams when it comes to drafting and develop. I actually read an article the other day that had a quote from an MLB insider, basically, that was saying the Rockies draft and development program does more harm for young prospects than it does good. That's the optics that the Colorado Rockies have as an organization. And so when you look at long term, how do you dig yourself out of this hole? You're very limited on options. There's no one who wants to come sign for the Colorado Rockies. You don't have a minor league system that is, teeming with good prospects that are ready to come make a huge difference. You kind of have to flip the table upside down if you're the Colorado Rockies, in my opinion. You have to start from scratch. You have to trade the pieces you can trade, and you have to start from square one because when you're a historically bad franchise that the Colorado Rockies are right now, things have to change. And doing things in the status quo way that they've been doing things year over year is making it worse. So the Rockies need big changes this offseason, and I am expecting and hopefully speaking into existence big changes.
Do you think the Chris Bryant deal has changed the way they view large contracts, either from the standpoint of like we don't have enough money because we paid Chris Bryant, or just like look what we did, we spend the money like you guys wanted, and look how it turned out.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's completely shell shocked the front office, because again, this is not an organization that takes big risks. As a franchise, historically, you can go back and look at the deals that they've made. They have not made big contracts. They've not succeeded in those contracts, and so I think the Chris Bryant one definitely shell shocked the Rockies, and I think that's going to cause them to hesitate. And on top of that, again, you're cutting payroll probably year over year at this point, and so it makes it even more risky to say, are we going to go give a guy 90 to 100 million dollars and potentially, bankrupt our team at this point because nothing is working.
Dang. I didn't know it was that dire. So the payroll cuts are becoming again. So there's gonna be even more 1 year, 1 mil type guys coming into play.
It really is a draft and develop or die situation that we find ourselves in here in Colorado. And again, the unfortunate part is the Rockies are one of the worst teams in baseball if you look at statistically and historically at drafting and develop. Their scouting team is pretty good. The Rockies have drafted good players, right? So I'm not saying that the Rockies aren't going out and getting good players. Charlie Condon, I mean, he theoretically on paper looks like a very good draft pick, right? Brendan Rodgers, when he was drafted, was a good draft pick on paper. It's the development aspect of that. And that's where I think the optics come into play with the Rockies is they just do not do a good job of developing those players. Those players, by the time they get to the big leagues, are not where they need to be. And or they just sit around in the minors for too long and they never reach their peak. So again, you're in a situation it's kind of a lose-lose situation for the Colorado Rockies because you can't go spend money on big free agents because you don't have the money anymore. And also your drafting and developing process kind of stinks. So yeah, it's tough.